Have you ever unwittingly got into a relationship with someone where you didn't realize for a little time that they had a lot of avoidant attachment issues? Or have you ever gone out on a few dates with someone and for some reason you just couldn't see that they weren't that interested in you, or at least not as interested in you as you were in them? It's like you don't even see that the other person isn't all the way in it with you. All you see is someone who's very attractive because they're calm and they carry themselves with a lot of autonomy. They're so self-governing with this air of confidence and just emotional self-control. And a lot of times we get into relationships with people who have traits that we admire. And if you do struggle with a lot of anxiety, well, I don't know about you, but I find people who are cool and calm and confident to be very attractive. The worst scenario is when we learn too late, after we've already invested so much time and energy and emotion in another person. We find out the reason that they're able to keep it together 24/7 is because they are avoidant. They are emotionally unavailable, or they're just not as interested. They don't have both feet firmly planted in this dating arena with you. They got one foot right out the door. That's when, after going out on a few dates with someone thinking they're just as interested in you, they ghost you out of nowhere. And how could they do that? You had such a connection, but you didn't. And you didn't see it. That's when breakups blindside us and they have the potential to hurt us the most. And like I said, unfortunately, we a lot of times get overexcited and we don't find out until later that that other person is so calm with you because they don't really care about the relationship as much as you do. Trust me, as someone who grew up for years and years riddled with anxious tendencies, I have no problem being cool as a cucumber if I've gone out on a few dates with someone that I'm just not interested in. And the really twisted part is, the people that I wasn't that interested in seem to be the craziest about me, because to them, I was someone who had my stuff together. I had that sexy self-autonomy. I appeared to be incredibly confident, and I wasn't. Because if I had actually liked that person back, I would have been blowing up their phone to the point where they'd be like, wow, what did I get myself into? But what are you supposed to do? You want to be attractive, but you don't want to be somebody who avoids relationships, and you obviously want to be somebody who goes out with other people that you're actually interested in. Well, grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. When people are traumatized by breakups, they will tell you that they never saw it coming. They were totally blindsided. But a lot of people will also tell you that a few years later, when they look back in retrospect, there were red flags. Because when you're traumatized by a breakup like that, you scour the earth looking for things you could have done to avoid it, or things you can do to get the relationship back. And that's when you start to learn about red flags. Red flags that you didn't know about, or red flags that you couldn't even see at the beginning of the relationship. Last week, I put out a video about a particularly bad breakup I had with an avoidant that I never saw coming. Just the outpouring in the comments. So many of us have experienced the exact same thing. And for every single person that shared their story, I just want to say thank you. It is really emotional to read them. I read every single one because your story matters. Because no matter how the person who broke up with you makes you feel, you were a person who existed in that relationship, and the way that you experienced it matters. Your experience matters. And it doesn't just matter to you or me, it matters to all the people who read those comments and can take something away that you have learned that they can also apply to their future relationships. I'll tell you though, those breakup stories are rough. So what is our best defense against blindsiding breakups and getting ghosted and getting stood up on dates with people we thought liked us? Well, I'm about to introduce you to your new best friend, and that is detachment. Something I noticed while reading the comments is people who had come through really tough relationships and now they're on the other side and they're happier with their life, they're happier in their dating life, is they had mastered the art of detachment. This is very good advice, and also something that I have found really helped me in my dating life, and it helped me get more second dates with people I actually liked because I had learned to be detached. I wasn't jumping up their butt and causing them to lose attraction for me because I was exhibiting behaviors that weren't very attractive. And please do yourself a favor and don't be fooled by people who run around talking about how if you're hot and if you're good looking, all of your dating problems are solved. I can personally tell you I've been out on dates with guys where I found them on social media, thought they were super cute, but 10 minutes into the date, I wasn't attracted to them because of their behavior. Attraction is not just about looks. Welcome to the other half. So how do we do this? How do we practice detachment? Well, that's the first thing you need to understand. This is a practice. This isn't something you're going to be able to go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow and just know how to do flawlessly. And you might never be able to do it 100% flawlessly. What I've found is that healing attachment wounds takes a long time and a lot of conscious work. However, you can start controlling them, and a lot of times if you can control your actions, you begin to give your brain evidence that you really are a different kind of person. You start to believe it, and then it becomes true. One of the first things it would benefit for you to learn are the red flags of someone who is not on the same interest level as you. There are times when we grew up where we could not see the reality of what was going on around us, and we had to live in denial in order to survive, and that is fine, but it's not okay when you take this tendency into your adult life. That's how you miss the red flags. So even if you don't know them, get on the computer, talk to some people, read some books, and learn them. For example, if you meet someone online and they make a date with you and you text them earlier that day to confirm and they don't answer you, they're not showing up to that date. We all struggle with different mental health issues in the dating world. And if you would like to learn more about things like learning red flags and how to spot them in relationships, then make sure you subscribe. Please share this video with another person that you know is struggling in their dating life, because goodness knows I wish I had known this stuff years ago. So you learn some red flags and then you stay detached long enough to be able to spot them. And the best way that I've found to do that is get really clear on boundaries. And I'm not talking about, there are big boundaries. You don't want to date someone who would harm an animal, and you don't want to date somebody who's mean to their mom, and you don't want to date somebody who is going to end up being very verbally abusive in your relationship. Now, those are big boundaries and they're big deal breakers. But actually, when you first meet someone, you can keep it very simple. I'm talking about very logical, small boundaries. When you go out on a first date with someone, you're not talking about having kids together. This isn't some kind of married at first sight. You realize that this is a first date with someone you don't really know. That's how you treat it. You don't have to worry about what your life is going to be like with this person 10 years from now. All you have to worry about is, are you attracted to them? And do you have good enough chemistry to even enjoy being around them? You might not realize it, but enjoying being around someone is actually planning for 10 years down the line. I had a guy at my gym who's been with his girlfriend for 6 years and they just got married. And he told me the reason he married her wasn't because of their nonstop, fun-filled, exciting, fireworks-filled dating life. He married her because he said even when they were just sitting and doing nothing, as people usually do in long-term relationships, they sit together. They are around each other all the time, and he just enjoys her company. So that aspect of just enjoying someone's presence on the first date, feeling comfortable with them, might have more to do with the long run than spouting off your work resume or talking about your hopes and dreams. In the long run, people don't do that kind of stuff all the time. They're simply with each other, enjoying each other's company. Another reason I'm telling you it's important to put just small boundaries around things is to help you really focus on what this date is about. Now, if you are meeting someone for a first date, you're meeting them as a romantic prospect. You are not meeting them as a therapist. You're not meeting them as someone who's interviewing you for a job. Let me give you an example of how these lines totally get blurred. You go out and you have a cup of coffee with someone, ask them what the best cup of coffee is that they've ever had. And when they turn around and ask you what the best cup of coffee is you've ever had, what you don't say is the best cup of coffee you've ever had was when you went on a vacation and you had a nice hot cup of coffee overlooking snowy mountains. Gosh, it should have been a better vacation, but you know, it was one of those things where it was the right place, but you were there with the wrong person, and maybe someday you really hope to go back there with someone who actually treats you well, and oh Lord, please don't. This is oversharing. It's over-investing of yourself, and it's treating your date like they are your therapist. You tell them that you went on a fantastic vacation and you had a great cup of coffee overlooking snowy mountains. And that's it. And that's how you stay detached. You don't constantly tell people all of the little intricacies of everything that goes on in your day. It will give you a chance to share something fun and positive about yourself, because that's how you bond with people that are fun and positive. Boundaries. Date is a date. It's someone that you don't know very well. They're not your therapist. They're not a family member. They're not a teacher. They're not a future employer. They're just someone that you're going out with to see if you enjoy being around them and if you're attracted to them. They don't know you that well, and you don't know them either. Another reason why this is important is because when we really like someone and we're excited, sometimes we want to get to know them and we want to tell them all about ourselves. But think about how much easier it will be on your nervous system if you go on a coffee date with someone, keep it pretty surface level, but it just doesn't work out. They're not interested and they tell you it's just not for me. There's just such a difference. When you go on a couple of dates with people and you tell them some light and fluffy things about yourself and they reject you, it doesn't really feel like that harsh of a rejection. If you go out on dates and you start telling people about traumatic things in your past and your hopes and dreams for the future, the rejection feels so much more personal. It's harder to get over. It's a much bigger blow to our ego because they're rejecting so much more of you than what's on the surface level. And I understand you are not on this channel because you want surface and shallow relationships. But one thing I have learned with my time on this earth is that relationships end up being so much better when they're not forced and they're not rushed. They have time to blossom. If they ask you about past relationships, tell them, yeah, well, you know, it happens and everything happens for a reason, you know, on to bigger and better things, and change the subject until you know that that person is a safe person to share your past with. Be okay with holding yourself back a little bit on dates. Tell yourself that it's okay, and you don't have to go on these dates proving yourself to them. You know what? If they want to know some of the best parts of you, they're going to have to ask you out on another date. They're going to have to want to get to know you more. Don't allow your anxious tendencies to fill in those gaps of always texting and always talking and always asking the other person out so that you can't see that they're not really in it as much as you are. Focus on fun. Focus on what's going on around you. You go for a walk with somebody, talk about the things that you're seeing around you. Live in the moment with that person. When you go out to eat with them, talk about how much you enjoyed the atomic sherbet. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.